Did you ever spend time with the guy? Did you ever meet Diddy?
I've met him before, yeah.
How was he?
Very nice guy, very smart, super business. You know, I mean, he's very successful.
No, I get it. So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their.
They can't shake it. Even now, long after his passing, Gene Deal's words lingered not as gossip, but as warning. And it wasn't just about Diddy's infamous after-hours chaos or the parade of oil bottles federal agents neatly cataloged. In evidence photos, Gene hinted at something far more ancient. Far stranger, something embedded in the very bedrock of Hollywood. In his final interviews, he didn't just talk, he testified. Whispered of rooms buried beneath lavish LA estates. Of hushed ceremonies that made tabloid scandal look like child's play. He spoke of a code, unspoken pact.
The question is he a criminal? You know, is he basically akin to a mob boss running several criminal enterprises? And while it's very clear to me he is a depraved, disgusting person, we have to prove that he violated the law.
Among Hollywood's elite to guard certain thresholds, physical and metaphorical, with absolute silence. Now, Gene is gone. And the timing feels too pointed to dismiss. What remains are his fragments breadcrumbs, strewn through interviews, casual remarks that, when stitched together, paint a picture that's anything but accidental. Gene always claimed the real story wasn't unfolding in the limelight or the velvet-roped VIP zones. It was happening in spaces no press credential would ever reach. He described subterranean hallways beneath high-profile properties paths, not marked on any blueprint the public would ever see. He didn't laugh off the alleged Playboy Mansion tunnel system like the rest of us. He leaned into it. He referred to those 70s-era blueprints, the ones showing a route snaking beneath. The golf course and stretching into homes still owned by household names as real, and not just architectural quirks, but passageways that led to rooms. With locks on both sides, some called it urban legend. Others scoffed when Playboy's official site shared excavation photos from
parade of celebrities who we expect to be mentioned and or called into that courtroom. You know, people who we hadn't heard about prior, like Mike Myers, you know, Austin Powers, Mike Myers. Why is he getting called? Why is he on the witness list? That'll be fascinating. And then, of course, there are the no-name, quote unquote, women who are going to have to find every ounce of courage.
1977, then conspicuously noted that Hefner had no comment. But Gene's recollections had the weight of a man who'd seen more than he should have. He described walls wrapped in decades-old soundproofing, the faint scent of iron and incense still lingering in the air. These weren't filming locations. Not publicly, anyway. Yet cameras were present. Always. And if those cameras were recording what Gene implied, the footage wasn't meant for art. It was for leverage. Which brings us to the whisper that refuses to die, the supposed surveillance.
But it just seems very suspicious when you go through and you look at in the history of different people that can make you go away if you know. Listen, I've worried about some of the things that I talk about on my
tape seized during last year's federal raids on Diddy's LA and Miami estates. The public hasn't seen a single second. No leaks, no stills. No mentions from major networks. But insiders, those orbiting the investigations, say the chatter matches Gene's darkest warnings. Footage that doesn't just shock,
implicates not
just one man, but an entire system. It's easy to label it all conspiracy theater, to roll your eyes at the so-called tunnel triangle linking Diddy, MJ, and the Playboy Mansion, viral hoax that was quickly debunked. Yet no one explained why it was false, only that it was. And in a city with homes licensed for fireworks, private zoos, and hallways, no architect will publicly admit to building. People who've been there will quietly nod. Yes, the tunnels existed. They just won't tell you what they were for, Gene did, or at least he started to. He crossed lines.
Of a famous singer to not come out, here's the price. And that they're just selling to the individuals that are in those. This is what I heard. They're selling those videos. So if you're Tommy X And Tommy X is a big, big movie star. And he was at some of the Diddy parties. He was in one of those bedrooms with 3 other men, and he's happily married to a woman. And blah. Tommy doesn't want that.
You're not supposed to acknowledge, much less speak about on record. He named names, described events that took place behind sealed doors, accused major players in Diddy's orbit of exploiting people at their most vulnerable. He spoke of staircases that led nowhere unless you knew where to press, of corridors sealed since the late 80s, of rooms meant to be forgotten. The connections, if you dare to trace them, are chilling. Those rumored Hollenby Hills tunnels.
To me, as Wild King nights. And what a Wild King night was when him and a guest would go to a hotel room or be at his home, his bedroom, and they would have intimate gatherings. I would have to go and prep that hotel room, which consisted of baby oil.
Gene said they linked, at least for Alistair's, directly to the mansion, meaning someone could move from their luxury bedroom to a hidden chamber underground without ever being seen by street-level cameras. And according to Gene, those spaces weren't just decadent lounges. They were ritual site stages where every item was placed with intent, where the order of actions followed a script written long before Hollywood existed. If the surveillance tape truly exists, it's not just evidence, it's motive, and the silence surrounding it. That's strategy. During the raids, authorities reportedly seized digital media files described in such deliberately vague language. It's hard not to suspect they mask something darker. Alongside theatrical props and vats of oil, it's what wasn't detailed that haunts the mind. Sources claim the footage lines up disturbingly well with Gene's warnings: private gatherings, exclusive rosters, and power so absolute it had to be hidden underground. And here's the part that freezes the blood. Gene isn't the only one who tried to speak. Assistants once carried schedules they couldn't.
Surprised by the evidence that's already coming out in the criminal trial?
No, I'm not surprised. I experienced some of those things. Witness
show anyone. Bodyguards who weren't guarding from paparazzi, but from truth. Stylists who covered up bruises no concealer could erase. Many of them have simply vanished from the public sphere. No explanations, no goodbyes. Sometimes a vague obituary. Sometimes nothing at all. Coincidence, they say. But the list of the missing grows. And every time it does, another voice capable of corroborating the story goes silent. Gene knew the stakes. He wasn't naive. He knew the unwritten rules. Don't say certain names. Don't describe certain places. And above all, never provide specifics. But he did anyway. Weeks later, he was gone. It forces an unspoken question to the surface. How far will this machine go to protect its illusion? The ceremonies Gene hinted at weren't champagne-drenched hedonism. They were orchestrated.
Will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there, just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, you know, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to you. That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more